The 120 cell is basically my second favorite shape, so today I'm finally going to build its net. 120 dodecahedra. A week or two ago, I designed the net myself, and now I'm going to build according to it. The first step was to build a dodecahedron surrounded by 12 dodecahedra, one on each face, to create a sort of ballish core. Yeah, this one just doesn't fit. Then I ran into my first problem, which was that I placed the dodecahedra too poorly, and they were all misaligned from each other, and they wouldn't fit together anymore because they were jutting out and blocking entry. The tolerances are really tight. I was forced to tear it apart. Alright, so this dodecahedron is way more off kilter than the others, so it's gotta die. The second time, things were a lot less tight because I was careful of how well aligned things were, and I used the top face, which is slightly smaller than the bottom face, because when something is 3D printed, the bottom face expands outward a little bit, creating a lip. I had truncated the model to avoid that, but I didn't do it enough. Yeah, this is a shitty hold. This is barely glued on there. Even with all of that, the last dodecahedron was still really hard to add, until I had this idea to glue the 5 corners instead of gluing the center. Alright, I had a new strategy for gluing it, and it seemed to have worked. With that done, it was time for step 2, which is adding 20 more dodecahedra at every corner of the original dodecahedron. Step 3 was to attach 12 more dodecahedra to the original dodecahedron's faces. Anyways, I'm not doing that editing thing again, and it didn't even look that good because most of the time whenever I stick on a dodecahedron it's out of frame, so I had to use the gluing shots. It's not good. Okay, step 3 is done, and that means the hemisphere is complete. With all 3 steps completed, it was time to make the second hemisphere, and then I would make the equatorial dodecahedra, and then I'd connect them, and then it'd be done. Complete. Look at that. Step 2 done. Bring the circle of hot glue on and sticking it down.
Nice.
Now we have
Are the coloured ones just like the exterior? Or
the colored ones are for the equator. So
Ah.
these are two
So
hemispheres of a 120
Right, yeah,
cell,
okay, yeah.
and these things should be identical.
Okay.
Yeah, they're identical. With the second hemisphere out of the way, it was time for the 30 equator dodecahedra. These correspond with the edges of the central dodecahedron, which the central dodecahedron is really the top and bottom dodecahedron. Anyways, these dodecahedra, their centers lie perfectly on the midplane between the top and bottom of the 120 cell. The guide that I made previously looked really weird to me and I didn't like it, and I tried to remake it a little bit and then I decided to give up. So there was a long section of the time lapse where I just don't do anything, and it's because I'm thinking about the plan. Also, the colors make it very difficult because there's an obvious linear gradient, and I have to be very careful with how I orient that gradient and where I put each color. I put on one singular dodecahedron before deciding to sort the colors, because the way I printed it, there's 3 types of dodecahedra, and they're in groups of 14, 8, and 8, which is not good for the symmetry of H4. There are 8 of these and 14 of those, and I want you to think about it for a second. What do you think that would change?
the thickness of each color before the next color changes.
Yes, that's exactly correct. So these
Yeah.
look about the same, but you'll notice that the gradient is taller on some of them. Oh, Jesus.
Right.
Yeah, you'll notice that the gradient is taller on the ones that were printed
Well,
with 8 at a time.
yes. Now, with enough foresight, maybe you could have printed 10, 10, and 10.
Yeah, I just didn't want to make new models. I don't know, I just didn't think about it. But
Okay.
yeah, I should have done that. That would make this part much easier. Guys, look!
Excellent.
Yes, this is just like the thing I have in Blender. At this point, I ran into a really annoying issue, which is that I misplaced one of the dodecahedra, and now I had to pry it off, and it just would not come off. There was so much hot glue under there. It was just really stuck, and it took me a good long while to get it off. The silliest part was, the net would still fold with this error. It was purely for the symmetry and the aesthetic that I wanted to fix it.
Wait, I don't even think I can see the misplaced dodecahedron. Where is it?
The misplaced dodecahedron? It is right here.
Looks
Oh,
fine
yeah, I
visually.
got.
Now the question
But-
is, where do you attach
Yeah.
that to the other head?
So like, here's something else where it's the correct way, and you can see that like this one is perfectly in between these two. And then this one, it's not perfectly in between them. That's the problem.
Wow.
God damn. Yeah, finally. Now all that was left was to stick the two halves together. So just gonna use a bunch of hot glue. Yeah, okay. And now I'm just going to lower it onto there. And just mash it into there. Make sure to get it as firm as I can and as aligned as I can, because there's no getting that off once it's on.
Oh, yeah.
And I did it! I built the 120 cell net. It's finished. Yay! I'm so happy. Yeah, alright, I'm gonna stop the timer, or I'm gonna stop recording. Alright, 3 hours, 47 minutes. Wow. Thanks for watching the video. Here's some more pictures of the 120 cell net.